Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Another video and the when your employer does illegal stuff. And all of these videos are going to be so different in so many ways. Oh, where do we go from here? Let's go back to the days when I worked at the library. Oh yes, the library. The place where if you were straight, white, and had a dick, you were you were guilty on all charges for everything that ever happened, anywhere, at any time, in any place. It was you. At least that's how they acted. So, there tended to be a lot of, to put it bluntly, racism going on at the library towards the end of the time that I was working there. And it was not from dudes that looked like me. No, we were a minority in that place. Seriously. Actually, I'm a minority in the place I currently work at. So there seems to be a trend. Why the minorities are being treated like garbage, I had no idea. But some of this ended up being perpetrated against me. And it was by somebody who was half white. Therefore, she had to make up for not being all black and hating her whiteness and taking that hatred out on people she just didn't like, who looked like this. So one day I'm cleaning and some books are returned, and there's this one person that she sits at this spot and she takes the books and scans them in. Now, there are laws at the library regarding patron privacy, confidentiality. Basically, nobody can really know unless they have a warrant as to what you checked out when and how much and how often. Nah, so they kind of cover that in the movie Seven, if you're familiar with that. So these books are checked in, and this girl, she picks them up, and they're all books about sex. The very generic, this is how you do it. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And some of it was like from the 70s. Like the people had froze and it was in black and white. A library book. Well, this girl, she starts flipping through them because it's a boring job that she has. And she starts bitching about these books and about how it doesn't cover all the sex that it should cover. And she's like, there's no bondage in here, there's no BDSM, there's no this, whereas the backdoor action. Then another girl comes up and grabs a book and she just starts flipping through it and she says, yeah, where's the trans sex? And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking like, you mean the gay sex? I mean, because that's what that is in a nutshell. And they keep going back and forth. And then the girl who's checking the books in says, who checked these out? And she looks up the person who checked them out, and it was a younger person of age that was being responsible and wanted to learn about sex from their library. Oh no. So then the person who runs that department, she comes over. The one I was previously talking about that had an issue with being half and half, and an Oreo cookie, if you will. So then she comes over and she flips open one of the books, and They're telling her all the things that are wrong with these books and why do we still have these and yada, yada, yada. You know, because the library only caters to you. And she flips open the book and says, oh, I see what the problem is. It's a bunch of white people. And she stands there like this and she looks over at me and just glares at me. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do to you? And how is it that there's an issue with books being returned on time from a patron who checked them out, didn't damage any property, and is wanting to learn about a subject they're curious about? How is this conversation even happening? So that's one example. And this is the same person who would go around and complain that she didn't like the fact that I, because I was a straight white male, was coming into her department to do my job, which was cleaning the floors, pulling trash, wiping down surfaces, making sure things are sanitary. Because my presence was a threat towards her. Keep in mind, we never had a conversation. Aside from the weird moments she would walk by my janitor's closet and I'd hear somebody like doing this weird muffled mumbling of hello, and then like she would race off. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was about. Allegedly, and I'm gonna say allegedly because I don't believe half the shit that comes out of these people's mouths, she was abused as a child, and her father and her brother were racist towards her, and she deals with a lot of anxiety and trauma. I don't really give a fuck. And you know what? A lot of people who have these issues should not be running positions where they're in charge of other people. She also wrote in her book, yes, she wrote a book about all of her struggles and overcoming everything, that she treated her PTSD from her sexual abuse on her own. So this was not just in this department, this was not just in this area or with this person. No. This was a mind virus. The wokeism had taken over. And this was before 2020. But when 2020 happened, the floodgates opened. So there's a video I have here on YouTube that was the day after the BLM riots in Kalamazoo. I go downtown, you can see all the damage. I can still find the footage from the people looting and smashing windows that was taken and posted on Twitter. All of this stuff happened. The next morning, I was downtown with my youngest daughter, who was just born a few weeks before. And I had to see this stuff for myself. I was tired of hearing stuff at home. I couldn't rely on anything that anybody was telling me that was not even secondhand, like 5th, 6th, 10th, right? It's just freaking phone trees of information. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go see this. So I go downtown, I film everything. And while I'm down there, I see the head of maintenance going into the building, and he's checking the facility to see if there's any vandalism, windows smashed, doors smashed in, locks broken. The library was fine. He had to do that for all of the facilities. So then he sends an email to the director. The director sends out an email to everyone else, which I also got only like an hour or two later, stating that all of our facilities were intact, there's no damage done, basically saying everybody has a place to return to work when work commences. And for some reason, some asshole had to write back and say, I'm so glad that buildings are more important than people's lives. It's not their job, dude. They're not the head of maintenance and the director is not in charge of your BLM protest, okay? He's in charge of $20 million facilities. You stupid ass. I don't want to give it, I do not want to hear any of this garbage about like, you don't understand what I had to deal with racism. You burnt our fucking city to the ground. 5 houses were burned down. Stores were looted. Windows were smashed. And the city and the police didn't give a fuck. So of course, everyone else thought they had the license to act however they wanted. A few days later, we have a mandatory Zoom meeting where the staff all had to join in on the same call. Most people had their screens with the cameras off and they're just listening to the meeting happen. Well, they announced, we are proud to announce we're opening 2 new positions for this council board, which was something that employees could join, and they would engage in voting on different things for certain media or whatever that was going to be acquired. But what they said was, these 2 positions are strictly for BIPOC people, which is Black, Indigenous, I forget the other shit, right? Basically, everybody under the sun except for white people. And what they were strictly looking for was, we'd really like to have 2 women of color in these positions. And I'm sitting there like, this is illegal as fuck. You just openly stated you're being racist against people who apply for this position, which any employee is allowed to try to get into this position. You cannot reserve it for somebody because of the color of their skin or where they decide to smash their bits, okay? But no, this is all recorded, right? I'm sure this Zoom meeting is actually like on file somewhere. And this bitch went ahead and said it. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. And I'm sitting at the keyboard and I'm just like, do I put it in there? Do I put it in the comments just so that it's like registered, that they're told like, this is illegal, you can't do this? And then I'm like, I'm white, I have a dick, I have a wife, I got a second newborn daughter that I don't know if she's gonna need further medical care, because they could, and here's the other thing, I could mention that and they would just come up with a reason to fire me. Because they did not like me there at all. I don't even know why the hell they hired me. To be honest. I mean, the boss, the one that did hire me, she was a lesbian. Turns out she also worked, or she grew up a few houses down from me in the same neighborhood. I don't know if it was like bonding over the old hood or what it was. Or odds are it was because my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was pregnant with our first. Because they had a really bad reputation for doing that shit too. If there was anybody applying for a job and one of them was pregnant, guess who got the job? Didn't matter if they were qualified or not. Saw that happen a few times. But to get back to that meeting, they tried to cover their tracks later. They tried to say, well, if we don't get the type of people that we're desiring to apply for these positions, then we'll consider looking at other people. You're still racist as fuck. You know that, right? It was only a few weeks after that I was gone. I got the hell out of there. We moved. I put in my notice. And yeah, once 2020 happened, I was already miserable at that job. I fucking hated it. You can hear about my story on another video I made called Ed Pisker, Why I Care So Much. Because I went through similar shit that he went through. The only difference was I had kids and a family, and Ed was pretty much by himself. We got a bald eagle flying over. Where is he? Oh, two bald eagles. And my little dog is out here. I might have to kick some American ass. I don't know. They're circling. Let's get the hell out of here. So anyways, that is what I did. I highly doubt, because it's Kalamazoo, that anything was ever going to happen, even if it was reported. Because the city was, they had their fist so high up the ass of BLM and all these other racist fucks. They couldn't give a shit. Well, you know, as an employer, they'd come up with some garbage about like why they had the right to be excluding certain people because of the color of their skin or their sex, or sorry, gender, their gender. Well, as long as it's not the one, you've got 71 others to pick from. Or is it 70, 73? I don't know. I can't keep up with that shit. Who the fuck memorized all those anyways? So yeah, that kind of garbage is going on all the time. And it was going on even before I started working there, because the same woman that hired me, she was looking to hire somebody else for a different shift. And this was months before I started. And she gave that task to somebody else, and he comes back and he's like, well, out of all the candidates that applied, we've got these couple of guys. And this guy is the most qualified. So I think we should just be looking at him. Not much training involved, blah, 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 years of experience. And she looks back at him after she reads the resume and says, you need to think about this word, diversity. And he's just like, huh? Like, what? You want the most qualified, right? And she's like, diversity. He's like, so you don't want me to hire this guy who's the most qualified and would actually be the diversity. So that's when they hired the guy that I found out later was meeting up with hookers from Backpage, and he was really pissed off when the Kalamazoo Valley enforcement team went through and started raiding all these chicks that were posting their goods online and like where they can meet up with dudes. Man, my shit dried up after they did that. I bet it did. Oh, diversity hires. That's kind of a new thing you're hearing about right now, isn't it? Yeah. Works out so great. Keep on